This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, for ISE deployment session, what is our agenda? Our agenda is going to be talking about Cisco ISE Persona, Cisco ISE deployment model, how to register secondary band, Cisco ISE band auto failover, and what is BSN node group, and the benefit of BSN nodes group. Just a intro for me. I guess you already know about me from LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I'm there, and Cisco champion for 2020, and also CCIE and Cisco certified instructor, and some other stuff. Now, if you go to the Cisco Identity Service Engine Administrator Guide for version 2.7, the latest version, and it is the latest stable version, by the way, you will find in the Cisco website that they divide the topics related to ISE to different topics, about 15 main topic here. And we are going to cover this second one, deployment. This means at least you need to have a basic knowledge about what is ISE. What is the benefit of ISE? ISE is not only a AAA server, but also a policy-based or a policy engine for our network. You need to have some knowledge about Radius protocol, TechX plus, Radius attributes, what is .1x, how to configure AAA server and .1x in your AAA clients, like wireless LAN controller, ASA firewall, switches, all these devices that can act as a AAA client, and how to configure also the same in ISE itself. I'm thinking to create another session for policies, how to create policies in Cisco ISE also. But at least you need to know about these things. You need to know that ISE is your policy engine for software-defined access. In software-defined access, we have DNA center acting as similar like as SDN controller. And now all the EPIC EM applications inside the DNA center, and you will find in DNA Center that you can configure a feature, we call it a TrustSec. We used to configure it in Cisco ISE, but now we can configure it in DNA Center, and DNA Center will send it to Cisco ISE. So ISE is a part of software-defined access solution. ISE is your solution for guest access, for bring your own device access. ISE is also the controller for what we call it bxbret, and we might talk about this today for sure. But if you know all what we are talking about, in this case, you will start saying, okay, I want to have my ISE in my network. I want to deploy it. What should I do? And this is what we are going to cover here. So if you go to the links here, the two links here, you will find that we are covering the second chapter in this session, the deployment. Now, according to our agenda, we need to start with Cisco ISE Persona. What is a Cisco ISE Persona? From ISE deployment terminology, we have the concept of services. Services like monitoring service, like having the capability to manage the network access to our network, security and group access, all these services, we call it services, and we can group few services related to each other in one group, and this group or categorization, we will call it persona. And in ISE, you will notice that you have 4 persona or 4 group of services. you have administration persona, you have policy service persona, you have monitoring persona, and you have big grid persona. So for a group of services. ISE can come as appliance and can come as a virtual machine, and you can have a mixed network, few physical devices, few virtual machine. Any device or any virtual machine running ISE software, I would call it a node. So the node is ISE device, and this ISE device could have these group of services that we are talking about, these personas. Quickly, we need to remember something, that your ISE node, where I have these four group of services, four persona, or maybe as we are going to see later today, that I can have only one of these four persona, two of them, three of them. In the end, your ISE is just an application, and this application is actually based or built in Red Hat Enterprise. So when you have ISE VM, or when you have ISE physical device appliance, in this case, you need to remember that you are running Red Hat Enterprise in the underlay. In the overlay, I have my ISE software. All my interaction will be with this software and application. And for sure, it is not recommended to, by any way or another, going to the Red Hat and play with it, unless you're going to give the access to TAC team for troubleshooting. If you're ready, as I said, I'm assuming that you already know what is ISE, so you know that he's providing us a guest access and bring your own device access. That's mean, like when you go to a hospital or a hotel or whatever, and you are opening your laptop or smartphone, you can detect the SSID or WLAN, and you will see a home page where you can register or accept AUB, and then you can be connected to the internet. This portal, this web page that showing it to you is actually hosted and existed in Cisco ISE. So ISE is acting as a web server also. That's why we will have another application running beside the ISE application. It is the Apache Tomcat. Also, we will discover that we have a lot of information going to be saved inside ISE. This information could be related to our identity. When I say identity, it means users or endpoints. I need to have a database to store this information about my endpoints and my users. Normally, when I say endpoint, I mean here the MAC address for the endpoint, and for the users, it will be the user credential. And I need a database for that. Also, we hear that we have four persona, and one of them is called monitoring persona. It is normally logging. I need to save the logs. So again, I need a database to save my logs. And ISE in general is using Oracle database, 12G, as I remember, the last one, Enterprise Edition, for his own databases. Open source used in ISE, in ISE 2.6 or even 2.7, more than 900 different open source applications, including TCP dump, which is similar to our Shark and Linux, but running in Linux command line. Nmap, Python is installed there, 2.7. Till 2.6, it was 2.7, but we know that nowadays 2.7 is obsolete and we are working with 3. So I assume that soon they will replace 2.7 with 3, Python 3. Docker is there, Lua as Perl as a scripting and programming language is also there. The two links that I lifted in the end are very important. ISE performance and scale. Here you will find a comparison between different ISE models and ISE software 2.4, 2.6, 2.7, and the performance, how many connections I can have, even a WAN Excel sheet acting as a WAN bandwidth calculator. You can find it in this website. The second website will be about Cisco ISE resources. Here I'm sharing with you the most important links for to learn ISE, to understand ISE, and also you will find what is the latest books we have, the good blogs that coming from some Cisco champions or others. All this you will find it in the second. So what I have here is administration persona, policy service persona, monitoring persona, BX grid persona. And sometimes we can call them policy administration node, policy service node, monitoring node, BX grid node. So this is the acronym that we are using for each one of these four persona: BAN, BSN, MNT, BX grid. So you can understand now that you have four group of services inside ISE. For BAN, this is where you configure and view policies, license, administration access, and auditing. So in this group of services that we call it BAN, or administration persona, is actually here where I am going to create policies, add license to ISE, creating a user account for my assistant to do something in ISE, but not everything. Or I can make someone go to ISE and has read-only view, so you can only check all the configuration, but you cannot change anything. All this can be happen through the BAN. The BSN is your AAA server. So if I have a wireless LAN controller, if I have ASA, if I have multi-layer switch, any device that can act as a AAA client, when he tries to communicate with ISE as a AAA server, he is actually communicating with this group of service. We call it BSN, policy service node. So for me, if I'm the switch, for me, this BSN is my TechAX Plus server, my Radius server, and it is where I host the portal for guest access, bring your own device. This is where I'm going to do profiling, client provisioning, all these services that ISE already capable to do and provide for us, integrating with mobile device management, MDM, because you need to remember ISE is not able to discover a few things in smartphones. Like, for example, if I have a smartphone that if it's Android rooted, or if it is jailbreaked, if it is iPhone, and I want to create policy that saying I'm not allowing these devices if they have this condition. In this case, how I will know this piece of information? I need to be integrated with MDM, mobile device management, like Citrix, Meraki, and I will get the information. Then I can make a decision as a BSN. So BSN in general is where we will see the policies going to be applied. So yes, I'm creating the policy in BAN, but BSN is responsible to apply and execute these policies against our network. MNT is just logging for the BAN, for the BSN, for even AAA client. So MNT is like the log collector, the logs collector service, or a group of services that's responsible to get the logs from the BAN, logs from the BSNs, and even getting logs from AAA client and save it in a database. This is the MNT. And we have a fourth persona, BX Grid. I will talk about it later today. If you go to administration deployment, here you will see how to define where is my persona, what is the persona that I have, and you can see here. It's time to. You will see here that I have administration. So if I check this box, that's mean I am I'm saying my ISE node here, this one, which is called ISE -1, by the way, is going to be responsible for doing all these jobs and tasks that we talk about. It BAN can do it, administration persona can do it. Monitoring, that's mean I am MNT. So, but by checking this box, I am BAN. By checking this box, I'm MNT. By checking this box, I am BSN. And by checking this box, I'm BXGrid. Now, notice in the BSN, as I said, he's responsible for a lot of services. So once I check box the policy service here, you will find that you have another checkbox here for enable session services. And actually, this one means that I'm enabling the Radius capability and the AAA server capability and a lot of other things. Profiling, threat-centric NAC service. This is normally when I want to make my ISE integrated with, vulnerability scanners like Nessus or advanced malware protection, Cisco, for example, or any other vendor for sure. And then I will get the result from advanced malware protection. I will get a result for vulnerability scanning for one device. And maybe based on this result, ISE will say, you know something, this device, I give him this authorization. Now time to change this authorization to something else because he's not good. He doesn't have, he has a lot of vulnerability we just discovered. And so this is the threat-centric NAC. SXB, this is for BXGrid, enabling a protocol called SXB. And as I said, I will talk about BXGrid when we talk about this persona. This is the only persona that we didn't talk about it yet. Enable device admins. This is for TACACS Plus. So if I want to support TACACS Plus in my ISE, I need enable device admin. For sure, you need a license for that. We call it device admin. BXGrid is here also. In BSN, we have another one. I forget to talk about it here. Enable passive identity service, or sometimes we call it PIC. This is good when you want to enable a feature in ISE. We call it Easy Connect. What is simply Easy Connect doing? Easy Connect is saying that maybe you have ISE somewhere in one side, in one branch, and for some security reason, you don't want ISE to do the authentication for users. So what I will do, I will say, leave the authentication for Microsoft Active Directory. Let Active Directory doing his job normally, and give me the result for the authentication, and I can do the authorization and accounting by myself. So when I'm enabling passive identity service, that's mean I'm planning to make ISE not responsible for authentication. I will leave it for Active Directory, and I will make ISE responsible for authorization and accounting, or accounting only. It's up to you. We have two modes for that. Now, so as you can see, here's the BAN, here's the MNT, BSN. Enabled session services inside BSN. This is for enabling posturing, profiling, AAA capability. And this is the BXGrid. So we are good with these things here. Profiling, to enable profiling. Profiling means simply that ISE can detect the type of endpoint. When I say profiling, that's mean I have some probes or mechanism that can help me to understand if this is Linux machine, Windows machine, iPhone or iPad, and based on that, I can give you specific access based on the type of the device that you are try to using to communicate with my network. Something else before I leave, the two things I want to talk about them here before I leave this part. As I said, you need to know when you attend this session or when you rewatching it when I upload it to YouTube, you need to remember that TechX Plus is related to device administration, while Radius is related to network access. So when we say .1x and having access through different wired and wireless machines or even VPN, this is Radius here and network access. The TechX Plus normally used if someone want to access the AAA client, iOS or the GUI. So what if I have a user administrator, actually it will be, or one of the administrator assistants, and then you want to go to the operating system for the wireless LAN controller from the GUI, or if you want to go for the iOS itself, command line for a switch. In this case, we normally have, we can create a user account inside the switch, SSH, and done. With the TechX Plus, or what we call it device administration, no, the AAA client will say, wait a minute, I need to communicate with ISE and try to authenticate. One of the good things that the TechX Plus can do is capability to authorize each command that the user is typing. So if you type show run, the AAA client, let's say a switch, will go to the ISE and tell him, hey, I want to see if this guy is allowed to type show run or not. And ISE can tell him, okay, he's allowed, execute the command for him. And for sure, it is good for accounting from ISE side because he's logging what I'm typing. Another important thing that you need to check here is this part. Role standalone, and there is a green box for making it primary. What is this? This is something we will understand in a minute. But it is important to find out that we can have it here. And also you can notice here that in the monitoring part, but I have it gray here because this is standalone. I have here primary. So ISE deployment models. We understand what is persona. Now ISE deployment model. You have three ISE deployment models: standalone, hybrid, and distributed. This is the three models that we can have with ISE. Distributed deployment, sometimes we call it multi-node deployment. Sometimes we call it ISE cube. So the three terms are equal to each other. Just remember, when we say ISE cube, that means we are talking about the distributed deployment. If you have a single node, this can be called small cube. So it's not for distributed. This is for a cube that have only one ISE node. If you have from 3 to 7 ISE node, this is medium cube. From 5 to 54, this is called a large cube. Just for information, because sometimes you will find it in some books from Cisco bricks about ISE. Now, what is standalone deployment? Standalone deployment is simply means, just 1 minute. Let me change the color for this one. Here it means simply that I have one ISE node, and this ISE node will have the administration persona, the monitoring persona and the BSN or policy service persona. Only one ISE node has all the persona, and I will have one issue here in this standalone deployment. I have single point of failure. If I'm losing the connectivity to this ISE node, in this case, I don't have any backup. Example for single point of failure. This will lead us to go to the second one, hybrid deployment. In hybrid deployment, I will have the administration persona here, the monitoring persona here, and another ISE node only have the BSN. That means you will have a second ISE node, but you will not check the administration, the monitoring. You will only check the policy service persona and start choosing the services inside it. And in this case, you have two nodes. But again, I still have issue of single point of failure. And because if any one of them going offline, that's mean I'm losing the personas that exist in that device. If this BSN goes down, that's mean I don't have my ISE AAA server capability to start talking with the others. So I still have in hybrid deployment the single point of failure issue. Because here maybe I have a switch, and this switch is AAA client, is communicating with my BSN because there is an end user want to access the network. My BSN will act as a AAA server with him, and normally there is policies here in BSN. You already got it from the back. But if BSN is not here, this switch will not find any ISE node to talk with. He can talk to BAN and MNT. Actually, no. BAN and MNT is monitoring just for logging, and the administration persona is responsible to give the policies to the BSN. It is not responsible to act as a AAA server. So again, hybrid deployment will not be a good solution. So the best thing is going to distributed deployment, and in distributed deployment, I can have different options. The first option, I will have two ISE nodes. One has the administration persona, the monitoring, and the BSN. The other one has also the same thing. But the first one, I will call it primary node. And the second one, I will call it secondary node. So I have a primary node and secondary node. If the primary goes down, I have the secondary can promote it to be primary. So I have a sort of failover here. And in this case, I don't have this single point of failure anymore. Now, that's why when you go to your first node, you will have it in a standalone, which is standalone deployment. But you can click the make primary to make this one primary. If you have one ISE node as a primary, now I can bring another one and I will make it secondary. And I will have this option that we just talked about it here. There is something important I need you to remember about how the replication will happen between the primary and secondary. First of all, we have the administration persona here. If I create a policy, I will create it in the primary. If I'm adding a license, I will do it in the primary. You are doing everything in the primary. And the primary administration persona is responsible to replicate this to the secondary BAN. And if I have something. If I have service, again, I need also to send a copy of it to my BSN internally, and also to the BSN here. So this is what ban is doing. Also, if there is any logs, I will send it to my MNT here and to this MNT. This is what is happening here. The second thing that I need you to understand is the monitoring persona here and here, the primary and secondary, they don't talk to each other. You cannot depend in something like and say that I have something in the monitoring node in the primary, so for sure the monitoring node in the primary will send it to the monitoring node in the secondary. No, monitoring nodes is not talking to each other. They don't synchronize each other. So this is also important. So how they will get the logs, the secondary? It will get it from the original source. So if the ban here is sending logs to this MNT, he is responsible to send it to this MNT. If this BSN has some logs, he want to send it to this MNT, he will send it to this one, and he will send it to this one. So it looks like for administration persona and policy service persona, for ban and BSN, replication is happening and no issues. But when it comes to monitoring node, there is no replication between them. And if I am a ban or BSN and I want to send some piece of information as a log to my monitoring nodes, I need to send it twice, to this guy and to this guy. The second important thing that I need to talk about it, and by the way, what I'm saying here for replication is also applied for the different options that we'll talk about it in distributed deployment. There is something also important, is the concept of primary and secondary. Now, the concept of primary and secondary is actually applied to our ban. Let me have another line. I already created a script for that, but I don't know why it is not working. The BN here and the MNT, the BN here, the administration persona and the monitoring persona, these two are really has the concept of or the role of primary and secondary. The BSN is not working with these rules, so he cannot understand these roles. Actually, there is no primary and secondary in BSN. Both are primary, both are working, both are serving end users. So if I have here again a switch or a AAA client, and here I have a switch and AAA client, and they have different user here, this switch 1, this switch 2, and they have different user here and there, this BSN persona in the secondary node will be able to serve these guys. This can you mute yourself, guys? And this BSN in the primary node, but it is not a primary, also can serve switch 1. While the ban and MNT, they have this concept of primary and secondary role. And since they have this concept, you need to understand something. If I told you in this network, what is the where is the active administration persona and the active monitoring node that's really working and interacting with our network, it will be the one in the primary. The secondary is acting like a active standby failover. So this is our standby node. So ban and the administration persona, the ban and the monitoring persona, MNT, in the secondary node is standby. They don't do anything. They just receive the replication from the primary, but they don't do anything, and they don't serve any devices. While the BSN persona in both nodes he doesn't understand the concept of primary secondary. He's active actually. So the one here is serving different switches, and this guy can serve different switches, no issues with that. Okay, just now we need to talk about something very important. The failover that can happen between the primary and secondary. I said that if the primary goes down, we can have the secondary promoted to be primary, right? So I have my primary node here, my secondary node here, and I have my BN, MNT, PSN maybe here and here, no issues. Now, if the primary goes down, I will lose some services and capabilities. And I will lose it normally for 20 minutes, and I will explain why 20 minutes after the break. But anyway, if I want to make the secondary act as a primary, I will do it manually, which means I will go to the secondary and I'll tell him, hey, I'm promoting you to be primary because our original primary is down. Or you can have what we call it automatic failover. What is the automatic failover? It is simply bringing another ISE node here with one condition. I cannot have BN or MNT on it. And this makes sense because in all distributed deployment option, we are in option 1, but we will see that you cannot have more than 2 BAN and 2 MNT, 1 primary, 1 secondary, 1 primary, 1 secondary. So for sure, this guy will not have BN and MNT, but we can have BSN on it. This is what we call it non-administration BAN, not non-administration, non-BAN, not. This third device here will send hello messages to the primary, secondary, and especially for the primary. And he will keep sending to the primary this heartbeats to make sure that the primary is online. Now, if the primary is not online and it goes down, in this case, after few retries, the third node here will do. He will understand that this primary node is offline now, so he will send to the secondary telling him, hey, you can promote yourselves to be primary. We lost the connection with that guy. This is the solution when you have the primary and secondary ISE nodes in the same data center. Normally, we will see that we can make our primary in one data center and our secondary in another data center. This is one of the best practices. And in this case, if we have 2 data center and my primary is existing in one data center and the secondary in another data center, in this case, you will need, so if I have here this primary in DC1 and the secondary in DC2, in this case, I will have the third node here, the BSN, that's sending keep alive messages to the primary. It will be here, and they need to have another check node, health check node. But this is another term we can call this third ISE node. We can call it a health check node. This also could be BSN. And you need two devices in this case. This device is responsible to check the health for our primary. And that's why we call it the active health check node. This piece in here is passive. It's not doing anything. Okay, why I need it if it's passive? Actually, once the primary node goes down, the piece in here will discover, because he's sending few hello messages and he's not receiving any response. In this case, he will say, okay, let me tell this secondary that you are now promoted to be primary. And once this happens, our secondary will tell this guy, you know something, now you are not passive, now you will be the active. Now you will be the guy responsible to check if I'm alive or not. You will start sending me this heartbeats or keep alive messages. So this is the idea. By the way, some guys can use only one piece in, but as a health check and to send the keep alive messages, but it is not recommended. It's recommended to have another one in your second data center. So you can see here how it is happening. If you go to Cisco administration guide for ISE, you will notice that they are showing you the services that going to be lost or maybe will not work well and will be disrupted if the primary band goes down. So from this timeline between the primary band goes down and the secondary band will be promoted to be primary and act and serve the network, you will have some services going to be lost. Guest change password will not be available in this 20 minutes that I talk about it, from having the primary goes down and the secondary will be promoted to primary. If there is a guest access acceptable use policy will not work. Maximum failed login enforcement for guest will not be working. Any new guest going to connect to your BSN, and your BSN will show him the portal, and maybe you are using in guest access the sponsored or self-registered solution. This will not work, and any new guest will not be able to connect to the network. Also, bring your own device with internal certificate authority, MDM onboarding, MDM, the integration with MDM, and the BX Grid service also. As I said, I will talk about the BX Grid later. These also too will not be working fine. Okay, I will take a break for 5 minutes just to make a cup of coffee, and we will return back to talk about the distributed deployment option 2, which is the medium cube. Till now, we are talking about two ISE nodes, one primary, one secondary. Each one of them has the ban MNT, ban MNT. What other options we can have? This is what we're going to see after the break. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the second option in distributed deployment. You understand that the first option is having two nodes, one primary, one secondary, with the administration persona and your monitoring persona. Now, we will go to another option. In this option, we are saying you can have in data center one your ISE node primary, and I will have the ban and MNT here. In another data center, I can have the secondary node. With my ban and MNT. From geographical perspective, we are talking about headquarter in let's say in New York, another branches in different states, another branch in different country. We are talking globally. So maybe the two data centers is completely in two different countries or states. And I can have here one ISE node acting as a BSN, another one acting as a BSN, a third one here also as a BSN. I can have a fourth and the fifth one, but this is the maximum. With this solution, with this option, option 2, I can have up to 5 BSN. If I'm going to enable the automatic failover and follow the best practice from Cisco, in this case, in this DC1, I will have another node acting as a BSN. And here I have another one acting as a BSN. This BSN is working as a health check node for our primary and also can serve some AAA clients. Same for this guy. He's a passive health check node, but in the same time he can serve different guys from BSN here, fourth one, the fifth one here, and they could be in different, as I said, different country, different states, different locations. That's why we need to remember that the WAN connection between all these guys should have maximum 300 millisecond as a delay or less. And this is the option, but 5 BSNs only. Now, if you go to real life in production environment, you will notice that we have a lot of customers that already have more than 5 BSNs. They need more than 5 BSNs, and especially that sometimes few of them will prefer to have. Let's assume that these 2 BSNs exist in my New York office, let's say. In this case, instead of having 1 BSN, and this is a single point of failure, let's have 2 BSNs. So in the end, when I'm calculating how many BSNs I will need, how many AAA servers actually I will need, it will be a big number. But 5 BSNs only in this option, in this medium cube. So that's mean I need to move my cube to large cube. In large cube, Cisco is telling you you should have one primary node with administration persona enabled only, no monitoring, and bring another node for the monitoring, and it will be primary monitoring 1. and these two will be in data center 1. Another data center will hold for me the secondary administration persona node and the secondary node for monitoring. So in this case, I have 4 ISE nodes in now. You still can have one piece in here, one piece in there for health check, active passive. And I can have different BSNs here in different locations, up to 50 BSNs. And this is actually the maximum BSNs that you can have in the large cube of ISE, 50 BSNs. The maximum one that I saw it in oil company, in US oil company, it was 22 nodes, 4 nodes acting as a primary band, primary MNT, secondary, and 18 BSNs, about 1 million endpoints they are serving. So 5 BSNs is a good number. I don't think you will need it. You can go for 20, 25, 30 maybe. I don't think you will reach this number. But anyway, this is the option to have more BSNs, up to 50 BSNs nodes. What about the BX grid? The BX grid in distributed deployment. Now, BX grid persona itself can exist in your standalone. You can have one ISE node, single point of failure, running all the different type of persona, including BX grid. In hybrid, again, you can have it in somewhere in the node for BSN or in the node for BAN and MNT. In distributed deployment, whatever with option 1, only the BAN and MNT primary, BAN and MNT secondary, 2 nodes here, or having 4 nodes like the previous slide, BX grid can be there. Just quickly, let me explain something. Starting from ISE 2.4, we can have 4 nodes acting as a BX grid. Okay. What is inside them. Normally it will. I will not add the BX grid in my node that acting as administration or monitoring. So it will be with the BSNs, but I can have up to 4. This is the maximum number. Before ISE 2.4, it was 2 only. Now we can have 4. And similar to BSN, they don't have this concept of primary, secondary. They are all active. It's active failover solution. Now the question will be, what is BX grid? Because I didn't talk about this type of persona. Simply, we can have a grid like this. And in this grid, I can have my ISE, my Cisco ISE here. This is my ISE, and ISE here is acting as the grid controller. He's controlling anyone will be a member in this grid. Who can be a member in this grid? Your FMC, your Firepower Management Center, your Steelwatch Management Console, your CIEM Splunk, for example, any MDM device, Cisco DNA Center. And ISE will ask them, if you want to be a part of this grid, I need to create a certificate for you. I will give it to you. ISE, by the way, is working as a certificate authority by default. You can depend on another certificate authority like Active Directory certificate service, but when it comes to VxGrid, we prefer to use the ISE capability to act as a certificate authority. He will give them a certificate authority used for VxGrid only. The usage for this certificate will be VxGrid, and each member here will have the capability to be a publisher or subscriber. Publisher, that means he has some information and he can send it to the other guys, to the other members, including ISE. And this information could be helpful for you guys in your job. He's sharing context. He's sharing information. In VxGrid terminology, we call this capability or topics. If I want to get information, I will not be publisher, I will be subscriber. So publisher giving the information or the context or the topics or the capability all mean the same thing. And to get it, I need to be subscriber. If the device can be any device here, any VxGrid member here can be a publisher or subscriber or both. ISE, he is not only the controller for this VxGrid, for this grid, and control who is who will be a member, who is not going to be approved to be a member, but also he can act as a publisher or subscriber. So in another meaning, ISE itself also can get some information, can give some information or get some information. This is the idea of VxGrid simply. And in software-defined access, I say that you can create the TrustSec feature and configuration in the policy tab in DNA Center and send it to ISE to be configured there, because ISE is the TrustSec device. Actually, DNA Center need to be integrated with ISE here with VxGrid before we start typing and configuring TrustSec configuration in DNA Center, and going to be sent using REST API to ISE itself. Just remember something. This is a software-defined access solution. If you are not using software-defined access solution, you can go to ISE and create the TrustSec configuration directly on it, right? So this is the VxGrid deployment. You can have 4 VxGrids. I can have in this grid 4 ISE nodes. Okay. How to create, how to register a secondary nodes. First of all, you will notice something in the guide. In the official guide from Cisco, you will find something very important. They say that from the terminology perspective, the primary node is looking to all other nodes as a secondary nodes. I know it will make you say, hey, this concept of primary secondary is only for ban MNT. Yes, but from the primary ban, when he looks to the other nodes, he looks to them, all of them, as a secondary nodes. This is what he called them. Whatever they are, secondary ban, another VSNs, he call them secondary nodes. So the first thing I will need to do is change my standalone node to primary node. So I will go say make primary for my device. Then I will start to register any nodes, including the secondary node, ban MNT, and so on. The important thing that you need to put it in your mind is all your nodes in ISE Cube need to have the same source of NTB. We need to configure DNS with the lookup query and reverse lookup query records for all the devices, all the nodes. So forward and reverse lookup for all ISE nodes should be configured. And primary node and secondary node should have the same ISE software version and batch number. So when I have my ISE node here, and I told him you are my primary, so now I make him a primary. Now I have another ISE node I want to add it to a secondary, to be a secondary. The first thing that I need to think about it is, after checking the NTP DNS and my network infrastructure, is checking what is the version that my primary is using. If my primary is using 2.4 with build 379 and using the batch 5, let's say, in this case, I need to make sure that the secondary has the same software version and the same batch number before I add it to my primary. Once I add it to my primary, I need to make sure that he has the certificate for the secondary is accepted by the primary, because normally we use TLS in their own communication. Communication between all these nodes will be by TLS communication, and you can even use IP security between your nodes. By the way, you can configure it. But when we say TLS, that means certificate is important. And for sure, your secondary node need to join the Active Directory domain that the primary already joined, right? So from the command line, I can type show version, and I will see that I have my version here. And if I have this version, I need to make sure that it is matching the primary. If you're asking about batches, what is the story of batches? Batches is normally have the latest hot fixes. Cisco release ISE batches in semi-regular basis, and normally it will have the bug fixes, any necessary security fixes, sometimes some enhancement for your ISE application. Remember, as I said in the beginning of the session, ISE is based on the it is the underlay operating system for ISE is Red Hat. So we have some vulnerability like Heartbleed, for example, vulnerability. I need to make sure that I have a batch for all these things. So batches is installed from time to time. It is a set of hotfixes actually. If you want to install it from command line, normally you will go to Cisco website and install download this file .cba.tar, which means compressed in Linux. But as you can see, it is coming with ISE batch bundle. This is the name of the batch. This is batch 2. Batches is it is incremental. So in another meaning, if you have batch 2, you don't need to install batch 1. The content of batch 1 is already exist in batch 2. So you just need the latest number that the primary use and download it and use. This is the command batch install. Then the name of the file. Then where is the BC that hosting this file? No, here in my example, it is Yasser BC. It could be another BC. Normally, the BC that hosting this ISE files, this is what we call true story. And from administration system maintenance, and here in repository, you can give me the path for my machine, Yasser BC. What is the protocol you will ISE going to use to talk with the Yasser BC, FTP, SFTP, TFTP, whatever. Just want to get the file from there, and you will give the repository name. I will call it Yasser BC here. So actually, what is typed in the end, in the last line here, Yasser BC is the name of the repository. Also, you can check from batch management in the same path. You can check your batches and you can install your batches. Here I showed to you that you can do it in the command line, but also you can do it here from the GUI and go check install and install the batches. But you need to put it in your machine actually. After finishing that, now you can register or adding your second ISE node to the primary. And this is what we call it register. As you can see here, you have option to register and deregister, and also synchronize, force the synchronization. Administration system deployment, I will click register and I will say register ISE node. What is the ISE node? This secondary ISE node that I want to add it. What is the name of it? Username and password. Make sure that you have your certificate installed and done. Once you finish, you will find the information about the configuration for this second ISE node, and I will find that when it comes to administration, it is secondary. When it comes to monitoring, it is secondary. You can, for sure, I have a primary one, so I would choose secondary from here. You want to make this node also has a policy service or big spread node, you can do that. The most important part here that you need to remember, and unfortunately it is not clear for anyone new with Cisco ISE, that the node, the primary node, where I have the ban, from here you can configure anything. In another meaning, if I add a secondary node for ban, from the GUI for this primary node, I can manage all these guys. So your primary ban is acting like vManage in SD-WAN. It is acting like a centralized administration for all the nodes. This is actually one of the benefits of primary ban. And if you notice here, let me return back to, I guess we will have it somewhere. Let me show it to you. Yeah, later I will show you that you can see all the list of ISE nodes in your cube, and from the primary ban you can configure anything related to them. Once you have your ISE nodes registered, and the process of register is not only for secondary ban or secondary monitoring, but also for BSN. You will do the same steps for the BSN. But as I said, when it comes to the primary for primary ban and secondary ban, primary MNT, secondary MNT, we need to make sure that we have the same even batch number. Here in this example, I'm seeing that I have 4 ISE nodes. And these 4 ISE nodes, if you check the persona, you will understand what is the persona installed. It looks like I have a ban here and MNT. I have here another ban and MNT. Then I have 1 BSN and 1 BSN. So 4 persona. I have 4 nodes I have here, 2 BSNs and 1 primary ban MNT, 1 secondary ban MNT. If you told me which one is primary, which one is secondary here, you will find it in the rows. The A here and the M is, the A is, it means administration, means the ban. The M is, it means the MNT. The SEC here means secondary, and the BRI mean primary. So I can know that my primary MNT and ban is this one, because he has BRI. The first one is the secondary, because he has SEC, CEC for secondary. Secondary A, which is administration, and secondary M for. Also in this interface here, there is something good related to the BSN. You remember in BSN policy service, we have different services, right? If you enable profiling, but you didn't enable passive identity, if you enable this and you didn't enable that, he will tell you what is the services enabled in both of them here. So here in the number 246 has all the services, and number 247 only have these services here: identity mapping, session profile, sessions, and profiling. Now, for Cisco ISE ban auto failover, we talk about this. We understand that we should have a third ISE node. Normally, it will not be a primary ban or secondary ban. It is a BSN, and it will act as an active health. We can have another one in another data center, passive monitor. We talk about this. The most important part is when we're configuring this thing. If you go to administration deployment, you will notice that I have 4 ISE nodes, as you can see here. The one of them we understand is primary, the second is secondary, and 2 BSNs, if you remember. Now, all what you need to do is going to this option here, ban failover, and enable the ban failover. Once you enable the ban failover, you need to tell me which ISE node will acting as a primary health check node. And if you want to add a secondary one, you need to tell me what is the secondary one. If you don't have, you will make it both the same name, the same ISE node. So here I make the ISE 246 is the primary health check node, and the secondary is 247. So this one is the one really doing the real job and sending the heartbeats and keep alive to our BAN, and the secondary will be passive till the primary goes down. So the secondary will be a primary health check node. You will find here the polling interval and number of failures. This is normally how much I will what is the duration that I will use to send the heartbeats, and if I'm sending you a keep alive message or a heartbeat and you are not responding to me as a primary node, this is a failure. How many times I will accept this failure to happen? If I say it 5 times, and I'm saying 120 seconds every time I will send you this hello message, that's mean I will spend 120 seconds and there is a failure. You didn't respond. I will wait 120 seconds and send again. And if it is a failure, I'm counting 2 till I reach 5, which make this total here is 10 minutes, by the way, right? Till I reach this 10 minutes, and in this case, I will assume that my primary ban is offline. It is not working. I need now to tell the secondary ban to promote himself to be a primary. That's why here we are saying total time from primary ban failure to secondary ban working is 20 minutes. 10 minutes based on the default settings we have here, 120 multiple 5. And normally the promotion process, the secondary node will need 10 minutes to be a primary. So 10 minutes plus 10 minutes is 20. But manually, you can do it manually. If you don't want to use this concept, just go to administration system deployment, go to the secondary one and say promote to primary. Do it by yourself manually. So to recap here, how many ban you can have in your ISE network globally, what is the type of distributed deployment model you are using? Option 1, option 2, small cube, large cube. Maximum is 2 ban, 2 MNT, primary, secondary, primary, secondary. Peaks grid 4, BSN 50. This is the maximum. But you need to separate the MNT node primary from the primary monitoring, and same for secondary ban and MNT. So you need to use 4 nodes here: ban, MNT, primary, secondary. So you can have up to 50 BSNs. The services inside BSN also has some limitation. You need to remember. Inside the BSN, when you have an ISE node, you can have up to 50 ISE nodes with the session service, 50 doing profiling. Only one can take information from advanced malware protection and vulnerability scanners. ISE SXP protocol. This is the protocol that used with the BXGrid, by the way. In this case, we will can have up to 4, and so on. So what's really happening in real life? My client, whatever, laptop, wired machine, wireless machine, he will request access, and this access this access request will be sent to network access device. Your network access device here is your AAA client. It is maybe your switch, maybe your wireless LAN controller, whatever. And you are accessing, you are requesting access to our resources. So before I continue and sending you to the resources, I will go and ask the BSN, the policy service, and I will tell him, hey, is this guy's we need to authenticate this guy, and then we need to authorize him if he can access these resources or not. And maybe the policy service will query external identity store, Active Directory, to check if this user is there. Then he will authenticate it, and then he will check the authorization. What is the authorization for this guy? Maybe he will tell the AAA client, you know something, yes, this guy is authorized, but you need to have a downloadable access list here, or change this interface to this VLAN, whatever the authorization is. We have a set of different type of common tasks that can be used. How the policy service understand what policy he can use and what is the policies he can use in this thing, because we created in the ban and we send the policies. The ban actually is responsible to synchronize the policy, the BSN, and send him a copy of all these policies so it can be used. All the logs related coming from BSN will be sent to the MNT. If you have another MNT, by the way, it will be also sent to them again, because these two guys has not synchronized each other, the MNT primary and secondary. The administration, the ban also, he will send some logs to the monitoring node. And later, if I'm sitting in the administration persona, or if I'm sitting in the administration or ban node, I can view the logs and have all the reports by communicating to this MNT. So from here, I can do all my job. For sure, if this guy is allowed, I will send this client to access the resources. It's very important to understand that the ISE communication, 2.4 or 2.6 or 2.7, they are using the same port number for logging, for communicating with Active Directory, for communicating between each other. You need to remember that, especially when you have a firewall in between. And normally we don't prefer to have any NAT or a firewall between, especially NATing between the BSN and Active Directory. Now, the last topic for this session today is the Cisco ISE BSN node group, nodes group. What is this? Simply, you will go to administration system deployment. And if you expand this deployment, you will see the different ISE nodes. In our example, we have 4 ISE nodes, right? You can go to this gear here, and then the arrow, click it, and you will find something called Create Node Group. It is a group to group your BSNs. I have few BSNs, I can put them in a group. Why? I will tell you in the next slide. So you will have a group name here, you will give it a group name. We can also have something related to the MAR cache distribution. This is related to caching the information about the endpoint and the user together. I'm trying to make my computer account information and user account information working together, and I will never give access unless this piece of information exists. Anyway, so you will have you are creating a group for your BSNs. So I can create it. I can let's assume that I will call it here a Yasser group or whatever, Yasser side. And if I say submit, in this case, I will have a group here called the Yasser side, as you can see. Now I will go to my ISE devices, maybe 1, maybe 4, maybe 5. I will go to the one that I need to put it in the group. And normally it need to be a policy service, acting as a policy service or BSN. And when I go inside, in the policy service capability here, in the policy service persona, when I'm enabling it, you will find that I have an option here is called include node in node group. And I can choose the node group that I have. In this case, later, if I check this node, I will find it under this group. Why I need to group my BSNs nodes in groups, like I have 2 groups here. Let's assume that one group will represent the headquarter and one group will represent my branch 1. This is very important for us. But again, why? Let's think about it. High availability is actually exist in BSNs without the need to have one device sending heartbeats or doing automatic failover. It's already active solution. So if I have a BSN, this BSN may receive data about guest user, and when something happen or change, he will send the information to primary band, and primary band will send it to the other BSNs. But this is not a good solution. The good solution is taking your BSNs, put them in a group. So if I have a BSN that notice there is a change happening, he will not send the information to the data center primary band, then retain back, then wait till the primary band send it to his neighbor BSNs that exist maybe in the same LAN or in the same group. No, I will go and send it to any ISE node member in my group. If you are a member in the same group that I'm existing on it, done. I will send these piece of information. Also, if I'm a BSN in a group and I'm serving some users, giving them some URL or portals, and suddenly I'm not able to do my work because I'm offline, the other BSNs inside the same group can do the job for that guy and start communicating with the other device. This is the main idea. For sure, the other important thing that if you have, like, let's say 4 BSNs in the same group, they will keep a live message to each other also, which is very good. Heartbeat. They can exist, the member of BSNs in the same group, they can exist in different VLAN or subnets, different subnets, no issues. Starting from ISE 1.2, ISE is using the G groups framework, and G groups framework is what make our BSNs capable to talk to each other and send information about any changes to each other directly without the need to go to a band, to the primary band. This is with the help of G groups. And we understand how to create the groups. I'm just serve this one. For high availability in monitoring nodes, you have one primary, one secondary. You need to do it manually for the monitoring node to promote it from secondary to primary. Just remember that you will have issue when the primary retain back. If you have a secondary node and this secondary node is now going to be primary because the primary is not available, and they have here 1, 2, 3 logs, and they have here 1, 2, 3 logs, got it from different piece ends and ban. So now when this guy is acting as a primary, now I have another log 4. When this primary retain back and becoming online, he has the 1, 2, 3, but doesn't have the 4. And he will never have it because the secondary will never tell the primary anything about it, because they don't talk to each other. The monitoring nodes is not talking to each other. So I need to backup and restore the different logs that we have it here and send it to the primary. So this is the end of the session. Our next session will be tools and techniques for Cisco DevNet certification. I will see you there in August 15. So